Communication is key.
Be passionate about the subject that they're teaching.
He keeps it interesting.
They go the extra mile.
Thoroughly goes through the material.
Good sense of humor.
Be motivated.
And are always willing to help.
Just being like cool, I guess.
I think what makes a professor really good is someone who tailors each class a little bit differently. You know what I mean? I know a syllabus is important and to have kind of a structure to the class, but it makes it really difficult when each teacher keeps every class on a very, very rigorous schedule and doesn't allow for any fluidity.
Well, actually, I currently have a professor that I consider to be one of the ideal teachers. It's somebody who makes you think a lot during class, somebody who doesn't just sit there and say, memorize this, memorize that, somebody who presents concepts and challenges you to understand them.
I think a good professor is to be able to communicate to their students on a one-on-one level. Like when they are in a classroom and they see that one of their students are struggling, they should be able to help them and not intimidate them with scare tactics. And they also should explain the material in a more easier way for kids to understand instead of the complicated way that they present it.
Okay. A good professor has the slides up behind them, but talks about the material and doesn't just read off the slides.
I appreciate when they give me all the information that I need to know, just make sure that I know that everything that's going to be on the test. It doesn't really matter how they present it to me. I prefer slideshow where it's just bullet pointed. It's a slideshow with bullet pointed information. Everything I need to know is on there. I can just look at that, see what I need to know, and be good. They don't even really need to talk much. They can just kind of give it the slideshow to me. Make sure I have the information. Is the big thing.
I think a good professor is a professor who will say something that's just so profound that I won't get it right away, and I'll leave the classroom upset. I'll just keep thinking about it, and then I'll be doing a daily chore, and then it just hits me wow, yeah, I learned something today.
Okay, so for me, what makes a good professor is communication is key. If I can email you, if I can talk to you face to face, it's really important for professors to have flexible schedules so they can work with the students. I also think that when you're in the classroom and you're teaching something for the first time, a professor really needs to get to each and every individual student by having as many examples as possible so they can infiltrate everybody. And I find that the best professors I have are when they use comedy and they use their own personal experiences.
A good professor is one that always offers their help, so they are always willing to help you, whether you go into their office hours or see you after class. They're always available and are always willing to help. I like those professors that communicate with the students instead of just lecturing and they don't care anything about you. I like the ones that ask for your response, see how you're doing, actually care how you're doing in the class and whether or not you deserve a certain grade.
A good professor is one that thoroughly goes through the material every class at a pace that is enough to get through the lecture but also slow enough to double check with the students that we're understanding the material. Also, office hours is helpful when professors are understanding when you don't understand material, and they'll go through it multiple times in a multitude of different ways. That helps a lot as well.
The professor has to be passionate about the subject that they're teaching, and they also have to be passionate about teaching so they can actually get what they want.
Willingness to answer questions, ability to explain, letting people know when their office hours are, emailing you back quickly, putting stuff on Moodle too, like PowerPoints and stuff. Just being cool, I guess.
To me, a good professor helps you with any questions you have. They go the extra mile to explain something a different way when you don't understand. They are available for office hours, so when you go in, they actually help you with anything you need. I've had a lot of professors that when I go in, they actually give you a new example to re-explain what they taught in class, that type of thing, because a lot of times what they did in class made sense at the time, but you don't remember or something like that. So I would say a professor that cares about you learning and that responds when you show that you are interested in the subject and that you really want to know, they respond positively and help you out.
I believe a professor is a good professor when they're willing to help out any student that comes to them and is willing to answer any type of question they have, even though it might take a little bit of time. I also believe a good professor is one who is willing to be understanding of like a student trying to get through college. Like if an emergency happens, then they should be understanding that just life happens and they were trying to do the best they can to do their best in that class. Honestly, it's not like they're purposely trying to get out of things. A lot of the times it's just life.
Well, first of all, the professor has to be motivated, because if he's not motivated, how are the kids going to be motivated to do anything at all?
I think, to me, what makes a good professor is the fact that they have to be attentive to their students. And I know that there's so many students in a day, but make them feel like they're the priority at that moment in time. Kind of like it's a little bit more personal, a little bit more intimate. I know there's many classes with a huge number of students in their class, but if you can just like talk to them and act like they are the best person in the world and really help them through whatever they're struggling with, that's what matters to me most.
A good professor has a good sense of humor, can actually teach the class, and the homework relates to what he's teaching in class.
Okay, I think professors need to be personable and not intimidating so that their students can feel like they can approach them with questions and problems that they're having.
Well, like, I mean, right now I'm in organic chemistry, and my professor, he keeps it interesting, and he always makes me laugh, and everyone laugh. And I think without that, I'd be doing way worse because of the fact that it's not the most interesting class in the world during lectures, and he keeps it so I actually pay attention. I don't fall asleep. I'm always like working to do better, and I think it's a lot thanks to him, so I really appreciate that.
My idea of a good professor is someone who's there in office hours when you need them, and they're really passionate about their subject. When you email them, they reply in a reasonable amount of time. They'll stay after class. They're willing to meet you for extra help, and they just really care about their students in general.
A good professor, in my opinion, is one that is actually really engaging with the students. You show up to class, they have different examples for you to do, may have a worksheet for you to work through with them after they do their lecture. I actually really like funny teachers as well. They're the teachers that make you laugh, make you actually want to go to class, and they're not just monotone. They actually care about their profession. I've actually had quite a few of those in my major, and it just makes going to classes that much easier.
So, as a professor at Oakland University, I think the best thing that we can do to help students is to recognize their talents and treat them individually, even if it's a large class. I teach writing, so it's good for me to know what kind of writers they are, what kind of talents they have. As a student at Oakland University, like I was in the 1990s, it was great for me to have a connection to the professors that were teaching my classes, who taught the courses I really loved and who were in my major. Spending time with them outside of the classroom was really important to my learning.
So for me, it is important that the students are safe in the lab, so they kind of follow all the safety protocol, and the experiments that they do in the lab, understand what they are doing, and then they should be able to think about the data they received and turn it into something that's important.
I've always thought, and still think that, I think everybody has the same potential to achieve what they want to achieve. There's not a question of those being, I don't believe in innate intelligence, if you like. I believe in a kind of developed intelligence. But what is a real clue, and I think this is kind of important, is that everybody tends to have, I think, their own personalised version of what they're good at and what they're not necessarily as good at, So I think great professors actually are able to draw out the individualism, the sort of individual strengths, and to build on those. Because, you can build strengths in one area that will then eventually, and in many ways, kind of cross over to other areas. Imagine the university is a big resource, and the human resource is as much part of that as the library resource or the technology resource or the the lab resource or the theatre resource, and just treat the whole thing as a big resource that you kind of move around.